Cool. All right. All right. Let's make you 15 inches big. Go.
All right. Great. Cool. Well, good evening, afternoon. Really glad to be checking with you guys. What would be really helpful for me is just to get a sense of relative composition of the room. So if you're a senior in college, can you raise your hand? All right, 2, 3, 4 seniors. And then juniors. Okay, 2 juniors. And then sophomores. 2 sophomores. Is there a freshman? And with the one with the glasses and the white and striped, are you a freshman?
It's my first year, but I'm a transfer. So
Transfer. Okay, cool. Awesome. Great. Well, it's so good to meet you. That's really helpful. And seniors, you have like a couple months, so good luck. You guys are totally preparing in the right way, trying to lock it down. That's great. Cool. So, yeah, that's really helpful. So I can go through a brief version of my story, share hopefully some experiences that may be useful, and happy to field any questions as needed, as relevant, and this can be helpful. So yeah, so as mentioned, my name is Tomas. I was born in Santa Cruz, California, grew up mostly in Sacramento with all of my extended family down in Los Angeles. So identify as Pan-Californian, and that's where I currently live right now. I'm just south of Oakland. Beautiful sunny day, nice and warm. I love California. And yeah, so my story really starts here, which is where I grew up. Had a really enjoyable childhood. My dad's an immigrant from Mexico, and my mom is daughter of immigrants from Cuba and southern Mexico as well. And had really no complaints growing up. And then 2008 comes around, and I think you guys were a few years, yep, definitely guys were a few years younger than me, so I'm probably assuming you were like in middle school. When 2008 happened, I think it was a sophomore in high school. And I don't know to what extent you guys remember that time, but for me, it was a time that shaped me more than any other, particularly because, yeah, my dad, who was an incredible human being, also built so much in this country after, arriving as an orphan, lost everything and much more over a matter of a few days, as the global economy was tanking. Really, yeah, my family kind of was taken along with it. So what that translated to was a period of a lot of challenges, a lot of pain, and a lot of difficulties, where in most of my high school years, I interacted with a father who was clinically depressed, with a mother who was in a constant state of anxiety, and being the older brother of 2 younger sisters, that period of time bonded me to my sisters in a way that I would not change for anything, because it was either we stick together and we take care of each other, or yeah, I don't know what else we would have done. So that period was really formative. And one of my youngest sister, she's about 7 years younger than me, was born with Down syndrome. So the 3 of us, whenever we're together, not once ever has anyone ever said, "You guys don't look related," just because we were very different. But yeah, they're a really big part of my life. And actually, because of that, getting accepted to Brown, leaving California and going to Providence was really difficult for that reason, because I didn't want to be so far away from them, but also had a very specific question in mind for my college years, which was, why am I here? What is my purpose? And I believe that Brown, more than any other place, could help me answer that question. So started my time in college and just went crazy. I was like, I have 4 years to answer this incredibly important question. I need to try and experiment and explore everything that I possibly can so that I can really have a lot of data to go on. Because effectively my approach was kind of like taking a handful of seeds and tossing them out, seeing what just would grow. So what that translated to was, I think my first year, I was in like, not even including coursework, but just in volunteering capacity, as I was involved in anywhere from like 38 to 45 hours per week of different volunteering organizations. My sophomore year, got involved in the social innovation community, so started that fellowship. Was working on my own organization. That's how I got connected with Alan. Junior year was a student staffer while building my own organization. Was also working directly in the social innovation crew. And then going into my senior year, I was a development studies major. I spent a summer in Mexico City, where I was working with an organization that focuses on supporting social entrepreneurs in Latin America. That was my idea for the thesis. I had spent the spring semester before focusing specifically on that, but a spring semester of coursework, a summer of internship, and then come the fall, I was going to be doing, like, actually writing my thesis on that. And about 1 week before my first chapter was due, I ended up reading this article about a young woman in Massachusetts who has Down syndrome and ended up dying because she was forgotten in a school bus on a hot day with the windows up, which led her to suffocate. And that was like this break. I was like, wait, what? Wait, is this like 2000? Yeah, at the time it was 2014. I was like, this 2014, this can happen? This is going to happen to someone like my sister? Wait a minute. What world am I actually living in? So then for the next about 5 hours, I was just like entered this just vortex of learning as much as I possibly could about just that. Trying to understand what world really is my younger sister, who at the time was in middle school, what world is she stepping into? Because it seems like I really don't know. And the amount of just like voracity, of hunger for knowledge that I felt, I had never experienced anything close. So that literally that same day, I go straight to my thesis advisor. I sit down like, hey, Nitsan, my thesis, the first chapter, which is due next Wednesday, I'm going to change my topic. She was like, no, you're not. I'm like, yes, I am. Like, no, you've done an entire semester of coursework. You just came back from a summer internship. You have 25 pages due next Wednesday. You're not going to change your thesis. I'm like, yes, I am. She was like, all right, you know what? Do whatever you want. As long as you have 25 pages on my desk, 3 o'clock next Wednesday. And I was like, great. That's all I need to hear. So pretty much for the next 5 days, I did not sleep. It was just like, I went straight to the library, printed out hundreds of pages of articles, and just entered a state of learning that I had never experienced before, and ended up 5 days later having 25 pages on her desk by 3 p.m. After which I proceeded to then sleep for like 20 hours. Really needed it. But that is to say, it was like this really strong resonance, and I ended up making a modified thesis where not only did I do kind of the conventional historical analysis, I focused on labor inclusion for folks with intellectual disabilities, but also complemented that with a business model of some sort of company that would address the core problems that the research came up with. Because I knew that if I was only focusing on learning what is wrong without also focusing on what I could do about it, like I would go crazy. So I needed to have both of those at the same time, and it really helped. So that's what I worked on. Did my thesis on that, and that's really what has been guiding me ever since I graduated in 2015. is this question of what actually can I do to ensure that by the time my sister graduates from high school, and then by the time she graduates from college, that there are more opportunities for her to enter into society, to enter into a workplace that will allow her to grow, thrive, and really learn to her full potential, because they don't exist now. What she deserves is not in the marketplace. And someone should do something about that. I could do something about that. So I'm doing something about that. And that kind of North Star has been what has been guiding me through a very interesting few years. The rough spin of it is that after graduating, I traveled around the world and then came back and started my career at a business model design firm in Providence before going to Cambridge to help start up an early stage investment fund looking to support female and founders of color, before then going to Oakland to help an early stage innovation investment fund founded by a union looking at new ways to create innovation in the workplace, before then joining a startup in Oakland that was spun out of MIT's business school that was effectively creating a more inclusive LinkedIn for folks who don't come from traditional backgrounds, until finally I landed at Accenture, where I've been a strategy consultant for the past year and a half, mostly getting involved in in their future of workforce practice, specifically helping push and develop their inclusive future of work offerings and practice. So like just helped in spare time produce a podcast on the inclusive future of work, which I never thought I'd be able to do at like a big corporate firm, but hey, 2019, you can do all kinds of things. So that's where I'm at now. And I'm also in the process of starting up, laying the groundwork for my own company, which I'm going to be launching full-time this year, hopefully sooner than later, which is designed around making making meditation accessible through pop culture. And that's kind of another thread of what I find to be really meaningful. And the goal is to have that be a funded, operating, and operational business, such that by the time next summer comes around, when my sister graduates from high school, I will have an office and a full team and staff that will be a space for her to be able to have her first summer internship. And I was talking with her last weekend. I was visiting back home. I was like, hey, Nina, do you want to have an internship at my company when you graduate from high school? She was like, yeah, cool. I'll make it happen. So that's where I'm at right now. And who knows what's going to happen, but that's definitely the intention. And yeah, so hopefully that was really helpful. I took a look at some of the questions that Alan had sent around questions that are kind of bubbling up. So happy to answer those, but also really happy to just open up the space to see like reflections, additional questions, what might be helpful to dig into. What are the things you're like, Tomas, never say this again. Don't ever mention that. Also really helpful. Yeah, how should we proceed?
Yeah.
I'm super curious. So I love that you kind of saw a topic, so this is about your thesis thing, that you identified this new topic and you just dove into it, and then you were like, I'm just gonna do it, even though so many like logistical factors would prevent someone from just changing their thesis topic a week before the first chapter's due. I'm curious if you've like encountered that in more, and I guess like higher stakes situations where kind of like the moment hits you, or like this like idea that you just have to chase like strikes you, and it's like you have to lose something to chase the thing that you really now love.
Mm-hmm.
You do that.
Definitely. So the two questions I'm hearing there are, one, has this happened? Has that same thing happened again? And two, how do you approach that? Is that right?
Yes.
All right, cool. Yeah, so definitely, absolutely, 1000%. For example, was a junior in college, and was going into my last semester, or last summer, and was like, okay, what am I gonna do after I graduate? Like, how do I approach this? And really started to think back on a previous experience that I had a few months prior, where I ended up studying abroad in Kyoto, Japan. So I did a semester abroad in like a Japanese Buddhism program, where I stayed mostly in Kyoto, but pretty much every week we would go to different temples all across that region and train with the monks in all these different schools of Japanese Buddhism. And one of those schools we went to in particular, like, had this very strong impact on me. I was 19 at the time, I'll never forget. It was a Zen temple in Okayama, really tiny little temple way up in the mountains. And this monk, who was the head Roshi at that temple, was like this old bald guy with like round glasses and like incredibly kind eyes. And just the way that he carried himself, I was like, you know something. You know something that I want to know, but you're not going to tell me because you can't. Like, who are you? And literally one of the things he said was, who arrived, was going to spend 5 days there. He said, "Welcome to our temple. Really glad to have you. We don't have visitors very often. Unlike other places that accept foreigners, here you will not find any lectures or talks, because there's nothing worth teaching that I can share with words. So here you will only find silence and enough community for you to study yourself." And he literally said nothing else for 5 days. I was like, whoa, crazy. And that advice, that guidance has been really helpful. But I remember after that, I was like, what the heck? Like, that guy seems kind of familiar, which is a weird thing, because I definitely never met him before. But then when I started to think more about it, realized that he actually reminded me of a cartoon character that I had encountered as a kid. So has anyone ever, did you guys ever see that cartoon Avatar: The Last Airbender? It's like a kid with like an arrow, like does the thing. Show of hands just so we can get a sense. 1, 2, 3. Hey, my people, cool. Yeah, so without going into that, pretty much he reminded me of one of the characters in that show, specifically Monkey Yatso, the airbending master who trained the main character when he was a kid. So this show is about this kid who goes to 4 nations of his world to seek out masters of the 4 elements. Like, that's what it's about. And I remember thinking, like, whoa, this guy that I met in Japan is kind of like this air master in this show. So that's kind of like I came all the way to this Zen temple to learn air. Which would mean that I could theoretically go to other countries to find real world masters of the other elements in the same type of what? And that idea stuck with me until end of junior year. I'm like, what do I want to do with my life? I have no idea. Do I want to get a job? No. Do I want to go into grad school? No. Do I want to travel around the world to master all 4 elements like the Avatar? Yeah. Yes, totally. I'm like, I'm a broke college student. How am I going to afford that? I don't know. I'll figure it out. So through a lot of persistence, I ended up getting in front of the creators, the original creators of the show, who went to RISD. I pitched them my vision, and I was like, hey, I love what you did. I want to take the narrative of your show out into the real world for the first time. I want to fund it through a crowdfunding campaign on Indiegogo, and I need your help. Are you in? They're like, sweet, this is great. So I did that. And so my senior year, when my friends were, applying for grad school, preparing for like case studies, which I was like, what is a case study? And they're like, we don't know. I was just spending really late nights preparing for this crowdfunding campaign, launching it, running it, and then securing the money, which then sent myself as a writer and my middle sister, who was a photographer, on this 4-part journey around the world, seeking out masters of the 4 elements, with a couple backpacks, a journal, and a camera, on an adventure that that was very formative, to say the least, and was definitely something that was just this idea, like, I need to do this. I don't know why, but it feels right. I trust that. So I think specifically to answer your question, the advice on how exactly to go about that would come directly from that Roshi that I had met, which is to say, study yourself. Know when your core is telling you what you need to do. That's all you need to know. The how or the what, the details, that will come with time. And it's most likely going to be very unexpected, and that's what makes it interesting. But if you know, if you know who you are, then you can trust that wherever you are being pulled is exactly where you're supposed to be. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How did you go from all these non-traditional experiences to ending up with a very, I don't want to say traditional, but like, a big, Fortune 500 type company?
It's so weird. It's bizarre. So the short answer is, I know who I am and what role I am to play in this world. So the specific skills and experiences and network to support that vision is what I'm attempting to use my 20s for. So that's really the reason of why I am in the work that I am specifically, which is to say, the first couple of years of being out of college, got to work with some really small, very, very skilled, incredible teams that were really exciting and a lot of fun, and also were very quickly became clear that they were not places for me to actually learn, because I was working in very small and fast-moving and under-resourced organizations, where the people I was working with were completely focused on what they needed to do and had no capacity to actually be teaching me what to do. They're just like, you need to do this. Like, how do I do this? Or just like, figure it out. Like, okay, I can, but it would also be really helpful if someone just told me how to do it. It would save everyone a whole lot of time. So after a couple of years of working at really like small organizations, I really determined that I needed to learn best in class process, like yes, you can have a really great vision, but how exactly do you execute? Yeah, you can have really great team members, but how exactly do you set up management processes such that your teammates, the team that you gather, can do what they do best? Because what I saw a lot of in these smaller organizations are horrible management practices and really broken, if at all, processes. I was like, this is how you get things done. I'm not learning the best way to get things done. I have things to do, so I need to learn how to best get things done. Thus, I actually reached out to Alan and I was like, hey, do you know anyone who works at Accenture? They're a leader in this future workforce space. I'm interested in getting involved. And he was like, yep, I have like an old colleague that I can put you in touch with. Ended up getting a connection to one of his old colleagues who was some executive somewhere in the company. Had a 30-minute conversation with him. He was like, I think you're smart, you're really interesting. If you want to join, let me know, I'll give you a referral. He gave me a referral. I sent an online application. 4 months go by, and then I get a phone call literally after dinner one night. I was living in Cambridge at the time. And this woman was like, hey, I'm from Accenture. We like your application. We want you to have a case study on the phone by Friday. It was a Wednesday night. And if you do good, then we're going to fly out to Chicago next Monday. You're going to do a full day of case studies. And if you do good on that, then we're going to give you a job. And I was like, great. Yeah, I'll totally do that. Hung up the phone, Google, what is a case study? And yeah, ended up figuring it out and kind of entering in that realm.
You want to hear something really? No, I'm sorry, Tomas. I thought you were done. You want to hear something really bizarre?
Yeah.
John Semmer called me 2 days ago out of the blue.
What? No way. Are you serious?
Bizarre. Like, I haven't talked to John. I didn't even talk to him. I just sent him an email when I connected you to him. And out of the blue, like 2 days before you're here, he called me for. It's just bizarre. Totally
That's crazy. Yeah, I remember when you sent me the intro, you're like, yeah, I know this guy. I haven't talked to him in like 10 years, but
yeah.
I can put you in front of him. Oh, no coincidence.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Is there any part of you that wishes that you had kind of done it the other way around, where you had started in this like very traditional setting where you had a lot of resources and had a lot of people helping you through the processes to begin with, and then from there kind of worked for these small organizations that you felt more of a like personal or like connected with or aligned with the mission, or are you like glad that it worked out the way that it did?
Got it. Yeah, that's a really good question. So what I'm hearing is like, if I could go to like, would I do it differently? And the answer is definitely not.
Yeah.
And I say that because I believe, like, just fundamentally believe that everything happens always as it's supposed to, and there's just no other way to go about that. So yeah, I know that, like, to put a logical answer to it, like, if I had gone straight to like more, if I was doing the work that I do now straight out of college, I would be pulling my hair out of my head. I would be going crazy, and I would be very, very like distressed, because I would still have a lot that I needed to experience to then bring me to understanding the value of why I needed to be doing what I'm doing now. So one of my teachers once said, like, if I tell you the truth, you will forget it. If you experience it for yourself, taste it for yourself, you will never forget. And I think that's also pretty accurate. Like, yeah, anyone can tell you an idea of what you can do, but it's only until you're actually experiencing can you truly know. And I believe that everything that we do experience does teach us what we individually are supposed to know, which cannot be what anyone else is supposed to experience or to know. which is to say you have your specific path, and that's only for you to explore and to experience. Like I remember one time someone like kind of guided me through this thought experiment where he was like, okay, how old are you?
20.
20? Okay, so when you were 5 years old, where in the world did you think you would be at 20 years old?
I wanted to be a fire truck. That was my answer.
Yes.
I mean, hey, hashtag goals. Cool. When you were 10, where did you think you would be at 20?
In college.
Which specific college?
Somewhere on the East Coast, because that's where my parents were from.
Okay, cool. And then now you are. So the point that he brings up there is, or rather, then the next question is, do you like where you are right now today?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Would you change where you are right now today?
No.
Okay. Well, there's only one path to get to where you are, and that is the path that you took. For you specifically, there is no other way to get to where you are than the specific route that you yourself experienced. And where you are today is not what you expected, but it is good. So through simple reasoning, you can project forward and say, okay, I don't know really where I'm going to be another 20 years down the line, but I know that it will be good. I know that it will be where I am supposed to be. So who knows, but it will be right. And there's no other, you cannot do it any other way.
Not sure how I feel with you.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, well, I mean, but just, I think more because I'm just curious, and I really like a lot of stuff you said about the idea of like, if you, like, you have to taste it for yourself, which I think has like been a trend a lot of, I haven't been ready for a lot of things, and later on I was like, oh, wow, if I would have seen this a while ago, so I think that's like, holds very true and a very interesting analogy. Just a question on like, the idea of like, I think a lot of people are like, have the two paths in front of them, and it's like, oh, should I go work at this corporate, or should I go kind of follow this other side of things? And like with those two paths, just the idea of if you were looking at them right now, is there is there one that you rather like should have came before the other, or like from where?
Got it. Yeah, that's a really good question. So the way that I would kind of understand that question is by distinguishing the what from the why. And in the context of a career, the what will change all the time, but the why never changes. The why remains your constant in the middle of the movement of the what. So, for example, right now, I truly believe that the why for every single human being, the why of like, why am I here? What is my purpose? What am I supposed to be doing? The answer is really simple. It is very easily put: to give and receive love, period. That's it. How exactly you do that, that's for every specific person to figure out. But that's the why. So by studying yourself, by understanding really why you're here and why you're in this life, the what becomes much more clear. Because if you, for example, have two potential offers, they could be both really great, but one can be understood as more useful in service of your why than the other. And that's kind of the operating function that I use in determining how to proceed forward. So, as another example, it's like, you can wear a gray shirt one day, and then you can wear a black shirt the other day, but you are still you, if you know who you are. Similarly, you can be doing one job one year, and you could do another job another year, it doesn't change who you are. It doesn't change why you're here. It simply changes what you're doing. And I think that framing really helped me, quite frankly, really helped me chill out. I'm like, it doesn't really matter what I'm doing, as long as it's in service of the why, then it's right. But this like anxiety of like, oh, but maybe it, I could be doing something else which could make me look better to some other people who I might not even meet, or it might not ever be relevant. Like all of these possibilities are really anxiety inducing, and also are beside the point. So again, to kind of summarize the answer there is understand your why, and then the what will become clear.
Anybody have a last question? We can squeeze in a little bit of why. Tomas, I just sent you a text that said, well, maybe you'll read it for us.
Oh. Thanks, Alan. Appreciate it.
Read it out loud.
I'm getting really nervous.
I'll read it out.
It says, "You are so fucking wise."
Yeah, I honestly, I am so grateful for you sharing not only your story, but sort of the way you navigate with so much intention and so much clarity about who you are, what you care about. I mean, these are all things that we're thinking about within this class. I think the answer that you gave to Braden at the end about like, the clarity about why makes the what a lot less important is actually.
Yeah, it was a better answer than what I was looking for. I was like, wow, that's extremely profound. And it's just like, I was like, I wonder which had better skills.
So I don't think we can upgrade that. I don't think we can do better than that. That was really profound and beautiful and exactly what I expected you to. Gave us a lot to think about. So I really appreciate your time and wisdom today, and hopefully we'll be able to see you either out there or you'll maybe come back here and visit us.
Cool. Yeah, that'd be great.
Thanks, Tomas.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, hope that was helpful.
We'll see you soon.
Later.
All right, y'all.